Hey guys, welcome back to Bro and Sis Math Club. Today's topic is what is a line? Now let's recap to our previous video, and in that video we learned about rays, okay? And we said that a ray has a starting point known as the end point. So this is a starting point, and yes, it's known as the end point, which may seem a little weird, but it is called the end point in math, okay? So we'll label this end point. And a ray goes on in one direction for infinity, okay? So we'll start at the end point and we'll go on for infinity, and we put an arrow at the end to show that it will go in this direction, okay? So now, let's say the end point is point A, okay? And now we have another point about over here, which is point B. When you are writing the ray, now also keep this in mind, the other vocab term besides endpoint is direction, and the direction is the direction in which the ray is headed. So in this case, it refers to a point, okay? In this case, it will be point B because the ray is starting at the endpoint of A and it is going towards point B. So point B will be known as the direction, okay? So when we're writing the ray, we have to write the endpoint first and then the direction, okay? So in this case, the endpoint will be A and the direction will be B. So we just have to write them together like that, A, B, okay? But also remember this, on top of it, on top of these letters, we are going to draw a small ray going to the right. Remember this rule. It must always go to the right. It cannot go to the left. It has to go to the right, okay? This is just a general rule of mathematics, okay? So now this is just a simple rule of ray. And the reason I did this review is because a line has pretty much the same concepts, okay? Because if we go ahead and take a look at the definition of a line, it says, a line is a straight figure that has no thickness and goes on for infinity in both directions. Well, this is pretty much similar to a ray because a ray goes on for infinity, and right? And doesn't have any direction, but the thing is, a line goes on in both directions. So it doesn't have a starting point, and neither does it have only one direction. It has both directions, okay? So a line could start anywhere and it could go in both directions. That's why we have arrows on both ends, okay? So this is a line. So remember in the rules it says a line has no starting point, so we do not see a starting point in here. It goes on for infinity. We know that because it should be, the arrows resemble that it is going in both directions, right? And also a line can have an infinite number of points, but those points aren't always labeled, okay? But let's say only a few points will be labeled, okay? So let's say here we have 2 points, right? So we have 1 point here and another point here. This point is point K, and this point is point L, okay? Now, when we are writing for a line, so in a ray, we said we had to write the endpoint first, and then the direction, and then we had to draw a small ray on top. Well, for a line, it doesn't matter because it does not have a starting point, so you don't need to write the endpoint first and the direction because there is no endpoint, right? So you could write this as KL, or you could write this as LK, whichever you prefer. Most people, because since in English we read from left to right, they would prefer to write it like reading it from left to right. So KL would be the way they'd prefer, but you could write it as LK, it doesn't matter, okay? So now, also remember this, that for a ray we drew a small ray on top. Well, for a line, we're gonna draw a small line on top, and remember that it must go in both directions, okay? So this is what it is for a line. Now let's say you had this line had 2 points labeled, right? What if you have a line that does not have any points labeled? So let's say you have a line, right? But there are no points labeled. How do you write this? Well, mostly in general, you will write this as, you're gonna first write line, and most likely it is referred to as line L, but you could write this as line, so let's say you could write this as line R, or you could write this as line M, N, doesn't really matter, but in general it's written as line L because line starts with an L, so that's why it's called line L. So if it doesn't have a point, then you will write line L for that. But remember, you could use any other letter, so it could be L, M, N, O, doesn't really matter, but you know. So this is all I have for this video. I hope you guys understood this. If you want any other extra practice problems on this topic or any other further coming up topics, please feel free to visit our website at www.broandsismathclub.com, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!